Hello, so today I'm going to be doing a book review video for Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. This book I read extremely fast, probably about 3 weeks it took me to finish it. It's roughly 365 pages, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that he did a really good job of summarizing a lot of the difficult moments that he has gone through in his life and basically how he's overcome it. And for those of you that aren't familiar with David Goggins, he is a former Navy SEAL or current Navy SEAL, I believe. But either way, he had a really tough upbringing, and he overcame that, became a Navy SEAL, and he obtained the world record for pull-ups at some point. I think the total that he reached was 4,030 in a span of 24 hours. And he's really accomplished a lot of amazing things, such as running ultra marathons and qualifying for the Boston Marathon. Just really incredible feats. And if I had to give this book a rating out of 10, I would honestly give it a 9.5 out of 10. I think that the philosophy that he pushes within the book, that regardless of where you come from, regardless of what you've done, or regardless of what you've been through, you really have the power to change your mentality about how you see yourself and change your mentality about how you see the world, and you can overcome almost anything. And that's a philosophy that I really enjoy, and that's one that I definitely try to live by as best as I can. And he kind of talks about that a lot in the book. So I want to kind of break it down into sections and what I really thought about each section of the book. So the first portion of the book, it's about his childhood. He grew up in Indiana where people were racist, and he was called racial slurs in school. He had a really difficult time, reading and learning things as a kid. And his father was abusive, and him and his mother eventually left his father. So that's kind of what he talks about in the first half of the book, and how just difficult and rough his childhood was. And I definitely can relate to that in the same ways that I have spoken about on my page. I didn't have a great childhood. So in the first half of the book, or first portion of the book, I was very emotional because I could see myself in what he was kind of describing. As a kid, you really don't have any control over what your parents do to you or things that they make you do. So for him to have overcome that is extremely powerful and says a lot about him as a person. So it's something that I really appreciated, a portion of the book that I really appreciated. Now, after that, he kind of gets into what he wanted to do with his life and what options were available for him. And he wanted to get into SEAL training, and he went through losing weight and training to become a Navy SEAL. And on his third attempt, he finally became a Navy SEAL. And it's a really interesting story that he shares of everything that he physically went through, that he physically endured to obtain that. And to do what he did, obviously, it takes a very strong mentality. One very great thing that I think that he mentions in the book is that it doesn't matter. I can't find probably the exact quote in here, but he talks about how it doesn't matter if you are black or white or gay or this or that. As long as you are willing to put in the work, then you are going to be ahead of a lot of people. And that is something that I have said on this page a lot. So I'm going to quote something that he said in the beginning of the book, minus the curse words. He states, "You aren't missing out on opportunities, making crap money, and getting evicted because of America or Donald Trump, or because your ancestors were slaves, or because some people hate immigrants or Jews or harass women or believe gay people are going to hell. If any of that is stopping you from excelling in your life, I've got some news. You are stopping you. And I thought that was super powerful, because so many people use excuses such as being a part of a minority group or being a part of a group that people necessarily don't like. And I always like to say that the world will never be fair. No one will really ever like you. Like, not everyone will like you, right? There's going to be some people that like you, hopefully, but not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to think you're awesome or amazing or great. And there are going to be people that flat out hate you in life. There's nothing you can do about that. But what you can control is your attitude towards life and what you decide to do with the opportunities that you are given. And I think that he has understood that to the T. With everything that he's been able to overcome, that is extremely amazing. So that was kind of the first portion of the book. He talks about his background, his upbringing and everything. The second portion of the book, he kind of gets into how he finally became a Navy SEAL and all the physical challenges that he overcame. And the last portion of the book is the final overcoming of challenges that he set for himself, such as the world record for the most amount of pull-ups in 24 hours, and also some personal reflection. What I will say is that he talks about all these physical achievements, and that's great. And I don't think that this is attainable for most people. Him going on his first 100-mile ultra run, the Badwater is what he called it, or what it was called at the time. He ran 100 miles without really any proper training. And he was pissing blood. He was on the verge of death after that race. And I don't think that's something that is very obtainable for many people, nor do I think that it's something that people should really try to achieve. And I think that that's something that he maybe should have specified before he mentioned these physical feats that he achieved. Obviously, over time with proper training, he became better at it. But for him to say that, oh, all you need is mentality to get you through running 100 miles without any proper training is, no, that's just very, I think, misleading for people that may say, hey, I'm going to try to do this thing without training. No, please do the proper training and do everything that you need to do in order to prepare yourself for these physical challenges. And do not push yourself to near death to win a race. I don't think that it's really that worth it. And yes, push yourself in your workouts or any physical challenges that you want to do. It's important to continue to strive for something better. But overall, I don't think that many people or most people should even try to get even close to where he was at in terms of these physical challenges. And I don't think that a lot of people realistically have the time because families, friends, different circumstances, situations, jobs, etc. Which brings me into my next point. In the book, he mentions that he had a child with his first wife. And I think that's a beautiful thing. They got remarried after, so he got divorced from her initially, and then he got remarried after she found out she was pregnant. And I think that was the right thing for him to do because, they were building life, they're creating life, so might as well get remarried. My issue in everything that he mentions in this book, he mentions kind of in passing that his wife had a child, and for the rest of the book, he does not mention for a moment that child. And while I think his physical feats are amazing, it really goes to show that to be able to do those things, you have to really sacrifice family. You have to really sacrifice a work-life balance because he was grinding away. And you know, running 100-mile plus races, but where was his family? And he ended up getting divorced from that first wife again, and then remarried later. But again, never really mentioned his daughter or his child. I don't know if it was actually a baby girl, but never heard about the child ever again after that. And yeah, that's part of the reason why I would give it a 9.5 out of 10, because family to me is important. And if you have a child, that should be your priority, and having that child be a part of your life. So for him to go off and do the world record for pull-ups and run 135-mile races, that means really nothing to me if you are not present for your child. So, and that may be a hot take, but that is just my opinion. But I also understand, to be able to achieve those things, to an extent, you have to be kind of absent, which is kind of a no-no for me. The other thing, and yes, I think that it's part of his persona, but I didn't like the curse words. I didn't like the expletives throughout the entirety of the book. I think that those were unnecessary, and my general stance on curse words is just that if you need them, then you're not really doing a good job of describing what you need to describe with regular words. So sure, that's probably part of being a Navy SEAL or being in, the Army, etc., because he did do certain things in separate branches of, the Army. He did navies, etc. So I think that's probably part of being a Navy SEAL or being in the Army, etc. But I just didn't like that. I would love to have younger kids read this book, but the way that he described certain things and certain moments in his life, I felt like were very inappropriate. So it's unfortunate, because I would love to see a version of this book without the curse words, so that kids can read this book and also be inspired. And, but again, that's part of his persona and part of him being hard, I guess. So those were the two things that I would say that knocked it down from a 10 out of 10 for me. I would just have loved to see him be a bit more of a family man and be a part of his child's life, and also just tone down the curse words. But overall, I thought it was a really great book, and I think that the philosophy that he speaks of in this book is so important, and I highly recommend this book to other people that are looking for some form of encouragement from a book. I would say that I don't go nearly as hard as David Goggins, but I try to live by this philosophy as much as I can. As in, I exercise at 5 a.m. 5 days a week, and that is just my default. That is what I do. I actually just finished at the gym like 30 minutes ago, decided to make this video before work. So I completely understand prioritizing your time and finding time for the things that mean something to you or that are important to you, and working hard continuously to achieve goals. Prior to reading this book, I signed up for a half marathon, never really ran in my life, and 13.1 miles is the most that I've ever ran, which was 2 weeks ago at my half marathon. And I found a lot of encouragement in this book. He talks about not stopping when you are tired, but stopping when you're done, right? And a bad habit that I've had in the past when running is stopping when I feel just tired, obviously, or when I feel like my heart's going to explode. And I would stop and I'd walk for a bit. And since reading this book, I've kind of tried to find that mentality within myself to not stop and walk when I go through a difficult run. Maybe slow down if I need to, but not stopping. And that has just completely changed my mentality about running, and has also made me like running a lot more. My point in sharing all of this is that this book is great for building up your mentality, building up grit in difficult moments, and building discipline. David Goggins clearly has grit and discipline to be able to achieve the things that he has achieved. So I think that it's important that a lot of people try their best to at least live by this, because in our society, I think that we do a really bad job of pushing past our limits and just living really mediocre and menial lives. And I think, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, there's some people that are meant to, or are put on this earth to just to be average. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that if you really want to achieve things and you want to do what other people have not done, then you're also going to have to do something you've never done. And that's why I say that if you have any amount of discipline, if you are willing to put in a little bit more effort than other people, then you are going to consistently be ahead of other people time and time again. And David Goggins in this book proves that you don't need talent to achieve a lot of things. You don't need talent. You just need grit. You need discipline. You need just hard work, consistent hard work, and that can get you to a lot of places. So overall, I would give this book a 9.5 out of 10, and I would highly recommend it to anyone that is not just trying to achieve physical feats, but also academic feats or feats at work. If you're trying to accomplish something, I think that a mentality of a discipline and hard work can help you all around. But especially, I think that the physical aspect of it will benefit you significantly as well. If you can get into working out or try to achieve something that you haven't achieved before physically, I think that really translates to all parts of life. So, yeah. So those were my thoughts on this book. Please let me know your thoughts on this book on the comments below.